Racers, Marshall Pruett. We are here in the paddock at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. IndyCar season finale is here. Going to get going a little bit later today, one and only practice session. We expect track records to fall. Got right there yesterday in the open test. We have drivers telling us, with all of us on track, more of that Firestone rubber getting put down, we are going to set some new track records. So I hope you can be here this weekend to see the insane speeds of the corners that we now have. But we're not talking about that right now. We'll do our end of day report when we got stuff to report. Right now we're going to talk about schedule, some silly season stuff, some big changes coming to the paddock. Let's start with the schedule. Just posted the story on racer.com. Schedule's not here. There was the big hope by IndyCar to have this ready to reveal this weekend before we were done with the 2023 championship. A couple little points here, nothing negative, just a couple procedural things that are going to take a little bit of extra time. That's why we won't have it this weekend. I'm told another week and a half to 2 weeks or so. Spoke with Penske Entertainment CEO Mark Miles, said just need to clear one little hurdle, then we're good to go. I know from what I had learned, just waiting for the fine folks in Toronto City Council to formally approve continuation of the Honda Indy Toronto event. I think that's just going to be a formality, but it's expected to be back. But you don't really want to announce you're going to a place before it's formally done and decided on. So get and respect that. This event, we know it is going from being end of season. We know that Nashville will be taking that spot starting in 2024. Where does this fall on the calendar? What I've heard, don't hold me to it, but I've heard from some pretty good sources locally that June 21st-ish through 23rd, I think that's correct, is where we might be landing here. Should be in between Road America and Mid-Ohio. Is the weekend off a little bit? Could it move up a little? Again, not totally sure, but I'm told Road America, Laguna Seca, and then Mid-Ohio is likely the cadence that we will see. We'd mentioned during the Worldwide Technology Raceway event that everything we're hearing is that it's going to go back to being a night race, and I've only had that belief strengthened, so really happy about that. What else do we have going on? Milwaukee, can't wait for that announcement to come. The postseason non-championship trip to Argentina, had heard that was on and off and who knows, and anyways, lots of questions. Only heard that that's been looking better and better. Mark Miles said, we have the basic terms agreed to, nothing's final, but it's getting closer to being a thing. Another item that I've heard related to that, didn't put it in my story. Wait a minute, there goes Marcus Ericsson. That's one of the guys we're going to talk about in a little bit when it comes to changes. Have heard, though, that it could be a one-year trip. We'll see if that bears out, but I know the conversation in the paddock for a little while now has been this Argentina thing happens, which we think it might. Instead of it being a many-year, long-running, long-standing thing, it might just be a visit, and then who knows if that plants a seed that brings us back sometime in the future. So got a lot of things moving, looking forward to getting this schedule out. Everyone can book their hotels and all the travel. That's one of the big things that we love to do. Let's talk about silly season. Mentioned at the end of the Portland race, one of the big items that had bubbled up over the weekend. Been hearing that Stingray Robb and his managers had found a formidable funding package. Something in the $8 to $9 million a year range is what I keep hearing. Aware had mentioned in that update that looked like Andretti Autosport could have been a landing spot for him. Rooting for Stingray for that to happen. Since heard, those talks might have concluded. So it doesn't sound like that's going to end up being a place for Stingray to land, but I'm told there's confidence that he will indeed find a very good home there. So we mentioned a couple weeks ago on Racer, Andretti Autosport was looking at considering dropping down to 3 cars. Had heard on very good authority more than once, there goes Graham Rahal, that indeed there was a formal plan to drop down to 3. That would have just been the new guy, I guess, went by Marcus Ericsson, Colton Herta, Kyle Kirkwood. Heard that obviously the consideration of running a 4th car, maybe for Stingray, would mean holding on to 4 would be a thing. Knowing now that, again, it sounds like the Stingray thing is not going to happen, still continue to hear another thing we mentioned, that there could be a bit of a women's racing initiative coming to that 4th car, possibly with Tatiana Calderon, possibly with Beth Pruett and Pruett Autosport. Even heard Brian Herta has been a co-entrant with Andretti for a while, that could be something that happens. So yet again, another thing that we are tracking and monitoring. Let's keep talking silly season, but maybe work in a little bit of the changes that are forthcoming as well. As we've said for a while now, Romain Grosjean will not be returning to Andretti Autosport. Still waiting for them to finally and formally confirm, but we know and have known for a fact this is Romain's final race here. There's a wild story to tell behind all of this. We'll wait till after this event. Might do it on my podcast, who knows, might do it in a video, but there's been a wild story related to all this, been sitting on for months, that has made it super clear that this relationship was not continuing. Won't get into that today. Again, we'll let them get through the weekend, but yeah, wild stuff. But still some options for where Romain might land. Dale Coyne's one of them, met with them multiple times. Juncos Hollinger Racing's another one where meetings have been held, and Carpenter Racing's another place where meetings have been held. Could be some possibilities for him there, but also on the topic of change, be prepared for this to be Romain's last IndyCar race, at least for the short term. Not saying he doesn't belong here, not saying he couldn't find something. I'm hoping that happens, but there's a possibility he might not be back. We'll see if and what business he gets worked out. Ryan Hunter-Reay. Don't think he's going to be coming back to Ed Carpenter Racing. Heard from really good sources that an offer to return's been made. I don't think the big guy is going to do that because the team just needs to make a lot of changes here. I don't know if a champion, Indy 500 winner, later stages of his full-time career is wanting to buckle in for a total rebuild. I know I've said that before, but I've heard nothing to say that's going to change. Agustin Canapino, I know I don't want this to be his last race. Rookie of the Year contender, just an excellent guy. I know the Juncos Hollinger team is working like mad to find funding to hold on to him. They are also, in a pretty blessed way, having a lot of folks wanting to run with them, so that's a great thing. Been told there's no news coming this weekend, but we are, for that, we got the sound of engines. We are on the clock. Never gets old. Never gets old. We're on the clock for confirmation, or it ain't happening confirmation, on this Arrow McLaren Juncos Hollinger Racing link up. So I've only heard positive things, that it's very likely going to happen. I know that some meetings are meant to take place today, possibly tomorrow, between both organizations. Something where, if that were to happen, I do think a driver that McLaren's had interest in, that being Callum Ilott, that they end up kind of getting him in their family, and David Malukas, who was just confirmed today. It's a lot of cool stuff happening here. So as we've written about for a while, be on the lookout for something possibly between McLaren and Juncos Hollinger Racing. I think by the end of this weekend, they might have some form of internal determination as to whether that's going to happen. And we'll see what comes out in the days and weeks following. Beyond that, who else do we have to talk about? I got one. This is where you edit in photos, because I just forgotten don't have one, Nick. Devlin DeFrancesco, he's someone that we're needing to hear about where he's going. It's interesting, we've got a number of young drivers who are all vying for similar things. Do you realize that David Malukas was heading to Ed Carpenter Racing until things fell through with Alex Palou? Legitimately, he was going from Dale Coyne Racing to kind of a lateral move. Now he has one of the most coveted availabilities, that's his. But who's going to slot in at Carpenter? Is it a DeFrancesco? Is it a Stingray Robb? Is it one of many others? There's a lot of stuff to still figure out. AJ Foyt Racing, I don't know if we're going to see the same exact lineup there. There's plenty left to go. with silly season stuff, we're just going to have to deal with it. Let's close on some of the changes that are coming, though. I'm going to write about this too. We're going to say farewell. Some of these kind of permanent, some of them hopefully temporary. Our guy Billy Vincent, team manager at Air McLaren, Felix Rosenquist's race strategist, just one of the great members of the IndyCar community. He's moving on, going to focus on some business things. Paul Ziggy Harkis from Andretti Autosport, he's retiring after this, won the Robin Miller Award for a lifetime of contributions to IndyCar. Think about others as well. Elio Castro Neves, right? He'll be back for 2 more Indy 500s, but his full-time IndyCar driving career is over after this weekend. Simon Pagenaud, we know, won't be back this season. We hope he's going to be back next year, but we just don't know. We mentioned Ryan Hunter-Reay, Tony Kanaan completing his final IndyCar race this year. Yet another big transition from some of our friends and heroes. Connor Daly we're hoping to get back, of course, but again, question marks about his future, and there's more. This is going to be a crazy year-to-year change for us, where a lot of the folks we love, support, who mean so much to us, maybe got us interested in the sport to begin with. Some of our earliest friends and heroes might not be back, so let's think about them a little bit. It's going to be a weekend full of love, but also a little bit of sorrow.